So if I'm writing my website, I can just, import that library, put my API key, and that's it. I have an upload. I don't need to think about the database.
Hello and welcome to Upfold Labs, where Agam and myself go through one idea every week, break it apart, show how we'll build it up, make a product out of it, and then how we'll take it to market. Agam, today is completely your ball. I'm here to observe and make snarky comments. Take it away.
Okay, so this is an idea I came up with just out of my own necessity and laziness. And I'm not totally sure where we're going with this, but I think there's something. So the idea is this. A lot of my applications and things I had to program, I needed to have some kind of database where I store basic information. And in a lot of cases, that was just counting stuff. And I was thinking about it, that as a developer, we always like doing things easier and being more lazy. And I thought, why the heck do I need to open up, orchestrate a database, put a server in front of it if I just want to freaking count numbers, right? Or if I want to log some basic stuff. I want basic primitives that I can store my data with. And I don't want to think about all the database. I don't want to think about all the functions and the servers and all that. And we're kind of going that way with serverless and edge functions and all that. But I felt like the database was never really, easy that way. The only places where I started seeing that were stuff like Airtable and stuff like that, but they weren't very developer oriented. They have an API, but I think they can do a lot more. So this is what I want to break down today. So basically, imagine that we start with a service that just lets you count stuff. Okay, you can call it a counter API. And I want to show you how it could look like, but the basic idea is it will be a bit different. So I have a few competitors that I want to actually use for our product to kind of explain it. So I'm going to wrap together the competitors and the product together. So one of them is this thing. We have this website called API Ninjas, and they have this counter API, which is basically a REST endpoint where you just send a request and you can count stuff. It's very simple. I don't see them doing anything crazy with this. They have a lot of other APIs here on the side. It's not their main thing, but basically that's kind of getting closer to where I want. A better place, a more close solution to what I was thinking was the following. It's this thing. So this is counter API. I don't know what their thing is, but basically they also give you widgets. So you can create these widgets and they do the counting on their side. So you don't even need to work with APIs and send requests. You just put this button on your web page and it will automatically count. Now, these are cool competitors to kind of think about and learn about, but I was thinking maybe we can create not just counters. You can start with counters, but you can grow to be like the building blocks for developers that are abstract for them. So the same way serverless abstracted all the operating system and all the annoying DevOps stuff, I want to abstract the same thing with the database. And I want to have basic primitives like a counter. I want to have basic primitives like having search on my data and saving some basic data types there. And I want to have widgets for that automatically created where I can design them, but I can get the basic functionality already. That's the basic product idea. Do you have any questions about that or thoughts?
Yeah, so the core premise here is basically primitives for getting stuff out of the way quickly. So basically, if you want to build something quickly and you want to have a counter for it, don't set up a database, whatever, just have it running there. I get that. I'm reminded of an example here. So this looks like a very minor kind of trimmed down version of what Firebase did for authentication, essentially. So basically, you can have users in your system, and you don't really want to deal with like building a membership system and dealing with like their state and forget password and logging and register and whatnot. So this looks like another primitive in what can be a series of MVP primitives that people use to build shit. Heroku, when they came out, their whole thing was about, we'll give you a dyno, whatever the fuck that meant, and that dyno has all the things you want. And if you want, you can plug in a few more things, and you've got an application. There you go, MVP primitive. So this feels like a cool idea to me. One question, is it only for numeric counting? Is it only integers?
No. So the idea is that you can start with that because I think enough people want to count things. You want to have upvotes, you want to have view counts, you want to have those things in almost any application. But I'm thinking you want to add more primitives to that and add more widgets to that. So you'll have kind of like a suite of different tools that people can just plug and play and not think about the database, not think about all of that.
Follow-up question.
I have a
Follow-up question. If we have this thing not only for counters, but also for like JSON and like random stuff out there, and there are already JSON stores out there. Essentially, what you're saying is you don't want me to do any of the data massaging. All you want to be able to do is put in a value, get back a value. That's the core premise of this. There's no extra calculation needed, essentially, right?
I want to have the data tailored to a specific use case, right? So counting, I want to have the generalized version of just counting, storing the data and pulling up the data. But I also want to save time, right? In most cases, you have like 99% of cases, you're going to do upvotes or you're going to do view counts, right? All the other areas are kind of like esoteric, and I'm not sure that everyone needs it. But I do want, for the view counts and the upvotes, I want to have those widgets. I want to have those integrations easily kind of connected to my application. So if I'm writing my website, I can just, import that library, put my API key, and that's it. I have an upvote. I don't need to think about the database, right?
Right.
I can design it the way I want, but I don't need to waste time on all the annoying stuff that's relevant to that. And the other primitives, I also want to think about what are the general use cases for that and kind of create those kind of mini dev tools that I can use and import and not think about. And then you can also have the generalized version, which is just the REST API that you store and get data back, because that's also useful. I don't want to think about the database. But it's kind of the two of both worlds.
What I think is, if we call this not a counter API per se, but developer primitives APIs, I love that. Basically, you can have a view count API and a like button API and a stuff like that API. That also translates to how I learned to code way back when, which is tutorials. So basically, you can say how to add a view count tutorial, like view count to your videos tutorial thingy, right? And then the way you use it is this library. And this leads obviously to the best go-to-market ever, which of course you thought about even before me. So I'm going to let you say it instead of stealing your thunder. So go ahead.
No, it's all good. But there are a couple of go-to-markets we can talk about. One of them is what you're saying, which is, if I'm not mistaken, write the manual tutorial on how you do it yourself, which is totally annoying. Everyone hates it. And on the top and the bottom, you have a call to action of why waste your time doing that? Just use us. So that's one way of doing it. I was thinking about some other ways too. So one of them is, I think this project really works well with edge functions. Now, I don't want to waste too much time about edge functions and talking about it. Basically, you can read more about it. Vercel are one of the pioneers that do kind of like pushing this forward. But basically, it's like better serverless on the edge. So I think you can use that to create like really speedy interactions. And so all those widgets and mini dev tools would be very, very responsive. But one of the go-to-markets I was thinking, because I was looking at Vercel, is that they have integrations. So I think you can create a lot of integrations here because their marketplace is not that big. So I would read about it and look, how can I get into this integration page and add all those widgets here? So people kind of see it, because I think it's not saturated yet. You can totally get a lot of I don't know if impressions, but potential users from that. And I think a lot of your users are developers using the Vercel ecosystem. So that's my second thought. Tom, do you want to share more thoughts before
so
my others?
I actually don't think it should be tied to a specific marketplace. I think the game should be, like I'm thinking about the product, it should be run this counter API on Vercel, Netlify, OpenFast, and like all of the different serverless functions there are. And by merit of doing that, you're basically abstracting away the underlying infrastructure, which also provides a great marketing method, because getting this API integrated to all of those other like marketplaces would be very easy. I understand marketplaces. This would be a very easy marketplace integration. So I'm saying just go out there and use all of these channels as your marketing channel. Go everywhere. Every place that has a function, you'll be the counter provider. You'll be the view count provider. You'll be the like provider. You're the core game there, and you'll be exposed to a bunch of different developers.
Now, my last go-to-market that I had is kind of interesting. You know how a lot of these products, they add their watermark or something like powered by and all that? I wouldn't do that specifically, because I think a lot of people would not want to use that if all of their widgets and all of the primitives have the powered by whatever. What I'm thinking is you have a very generous free tier, okay? So let's say we're talking about the counter because that's easy to think about. You say up to 500,000 counts, it's free. You can do whatever you want. There's no watermark. There's nothing. The moment you go over that 500,000, we're going to start putting powered by. Now, what's interesting about that is you can buy that power by out if you're a premium user. But the cool thing is you're not paying for it until you get to a substantial amount of growth, right? If you have more than 500,000 upvotes, you probably can pay a few dollars to get rid of that. And I think that's like a mind shift in that idea, because a lot of those products are always like powered by immediately. And then if you want to upsell the user, you say, okay, get rid of it. But I'm saying, no, get the user locked in to your ecosystem and all those primitives. And then when they get to a high scale, only then show that powered by, right?
Yeah.
You're either paying by marketing the tool or you're paying by paying the tool. So that's my second kind of go-to-market. Then we're kind of diverging into pricing unless you want to add more go-to-market.
I like that. One extra thing that comes to mind with the marketplaces is you don't only have to make your own tutorial or like get listed on the marketplace. Another thing you can do is engage with existing tutorials and then get your tool listed inside of them. And developer tutorials are, as many as you can find basically out there by now. It's very common. So you can team up with someone who already has a popular blog, figure out some commission structure and get you listed there in a sponsorship type way. Basically be the main sponsor for someone who has, one of the guys who I'm thinking about, his name is Federico, or if he's Italian, I think, I'm blanking on the name. Very cool guy. He basically does a bunch of tutorials and gathers them into ebooks, and he's very highly ranked on Google. And I think that I'll figure out the name later. We'll put it in the description. And I think that partnering up with something like that and giving him free access for life for the tool or something like that, because he's already using the ideas behind what you do, could be super cool. So basically partnering up here with an existing content creator might be very good. Even with normal influencers, you one guy, he has a fire thingy on his YouTube. I don't remember his name, but you one of those, get together with that YouTube guy.
I think.
Fireship. So get together with him and tell him, hey, Fireship dude, get free APIs for life for adding me into your tutorials. Why not? You'll get traffic.
Yeah. Just two things that I forgot to talk about that I think are very relevant for the product side. One is run local, have an open source local version, because a lot of people are very wary of their data. Now, I think most of the users will not use the open source version, because the whole idea is we want to save all the work, right? So they're going to use the hosted version. But I would also create, it's also a marketing tactic, I would create an open source repo for this, for handling the data. This could be something with Kubernetes or something, but basically you want to have an open source version that people can just deploy locally, because if they're giving you their data and their primitives, they want to know that they're safe in the future. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I think that one of the big annoying parts of saving data, and one of the reasons we don't have this type of company, is because of compliance. So if you manage to create a way where I can store data and I'm GDPR compliant automatically for all those bullshit types of things like upvotes and saving some information or maybe even user information, I think that's going to be a big, big, big interesting business, because you're letting me not only not think about the infrastructure, you're also giving me the ease of thought about compliance. I don't need to think about it. I can just store my information, get my information. And I think that's a big part you want to think about, is how do you make this data compliant for your users so they don't need to worry about it?
Um, I like it. I really like it, and I think that there is a core problem with handling data that is supposedly simple, right? View counts, with like on a larger scale, especially if you're going international. But I think we're kind of running out of time. I like this. I like anything that's a primitive. I like anything that kind of makes my life easier. And I am a big fan of like spending a few bucks just to make sure you're not spending a couple of hours doing something that's already been commoditized. So yeah.
Yeah. One last thing, pricing wise, again, Tom, I'd love to hear your closing thoughts on that. But I would say another thing you can make that's premium, that's interesting, is adding CAPTCHA to that. Because if you're doing mutations on these types of things, saving information like counters, or if you're saving an email for a newsletter, like just saving an email is also interesting as a data primitive. You want to have CAPTCHAs somewhere. That could also be a premium feature. Okay, how would we price it? And let's wrap it up.
It's a pay-per usage thing. So, you use the API has been called 10,000 times a month. It's free. Above the 10,000 mark, it's 0.00 something. I don't understand enough about API pricing points to let you know what would be the market for this. But I can tell you that I think it should be in the millions. So basically, you should purchase like packages of millions. So you'll start with like 1 million hits a month, 2 million hits a month, 10 million hits a month. This is something that gets hit on quite often. Even view counts, right? Which can very easily kind of, let's say, go to waste. Not go to waste, but rather they can very easily aggregate into millions. I'm thinking that if you purchase bundles of it instead of actually not a pay-per-usage, but a kind of a bundling situation, just bundle 1 million and sell 1 million $1, you'll also get the upside of that. But again, I'm no API pricing.
Yeah, I think that's homework for the users.
Definitely.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Thank you, Agam.
Bye, Tom.